At this time, I'd like to call to order the January 6, 2020 Public Works and Planning, January the 7th, Public Works and Planning meeting. I'd like to welcome everybody that has come tonight and welcome everybody that's watching at home. Our first order of business will be to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I looked over the minutes and I find them in order and I move their approval.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed. Motion passed. We're going to change up our lineup just a little because I think we've got some short and long issues coming tonight. I'll move the building codes report up to the first thing.
Thank you. Good evening. Happy New Year to everybody. I'll start with the building codes report, or the permit report. We issued a total of 255 permits this month, or excuse me, the month of December. 69 of those were single-family dwelling, for a total revenue of $107,559. 1,453 inspections were performed and a little over 8,000 miles driven.
Are there any questions on that part? Seeing none, proceed.
And if you guys don't mind, before I get to the development tax report, I would like to go over, I've been running some numbers to prepare for budget this year, and I handed you all a sheet there at the beginning of the meeting. And I just wanted to kind of put these in the back of your mind before budget time starts. So between 2018 and 2019, building code's seen almost a 30% increase in single-family dwelling permits issued. We've seen a little better than 16% overall, but certainly a majority of them with single-family dwelling permits. It went up from 664 in 2018 to 859 in 2019. Total of electrical permits that we issued, of course, we just started this in December of 2018, so I don't have any numbers for 2018. But in 2019, we issued 10,600 electrical permits, for a total revenue which was up almost 22% from 2018. And if you don't have any more questions on that, I will move on to development tax. So development tax in the month of December, we collected $654,750. There was a 200-unit apartment complex that we issued development tax for in December for the city of Murfreesboro. And finally, Rutherford County, the zoning enforcement, we had 167 inspections in the month of December.
Anyone have any questions for Ms. Bell?
Motion to approve the reports.
Motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passed. Thank you very much.
Good evening.
We'll bring Doug up with planning next.
Good evening, everyone. Hope everyone's doing well tonight. Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you all. Okay, first thing on the agenda that I'd like to present tonight is the available lot inventory through December of this past year, 2019. You'll see that the total available lots is 1,033. You see how that's quite a bit higher than the total available lots that same time period in 2018. This is up actually a little bit from last month, about 33 lots. We did have a couple of larger subdivision sections that were recorded. Building permit activity is still pretty strong, so I mean there will be some absorption in there, but during the holidays and this time of year, generally things do slow down a little bit. We've got quite a few lots in the pipeline, so when they get recorded, this is going to naturally go up. But we have seen, as you can tell from the trend just right there, these last several months we have seen more of an upward trend in available lots as opposed to years past where we were seeing a pretty much a downward trend for several years before it kind of evened out and started heading back up. So if you have any questions on that, I'll be happy to entertain those. If not, I will go ahead and go into the rezoning report. The Planning Commission considered 3 rezoning requests at their December 9th meeting. You'll only be considering one at the Board of Commissioners meeting next week. The first 2 on your agenda or property along, on Elam Road, and then a piece of property on Old Lebanon Road. Those were both recommended for denial by the Planning Commission. Item A, the one on Elam Road, he didn't want to bring it forward at this point. He's still kind of weighing his options if he wants to move it forward or not. The second item along Old Lebanon Road, that was actually withdrawn, so that one won't be coming back to you at any time. But the last item, item C, that was recommended for approval, and that's the one that you will have the public hearing on next week at your meeting. This is for property located along Old Nashville Highway, right past Burleson Lane. The applicant's looking to zone the property planned unit development, PUD, in order to develop a residential subdivision. Subdivision would be about 250 lots, minimum lot size of 6,800 square feet, various lot widths 60 feet wide, and the remainder 159 lots would be 55 feet wide, so that'd be about 91 lots with 60 feet wide. Development would be served by a step system and also water from CUD, and homes would be constructed with masonry front exteriors and vinyl siding on all other elevations. The pattern book for the development has been included on your iPads if you want to take a look at that. If you have specific questions on that, just let me know. I'll be happy to bring those up to you. There were several people who spoke during the public hearing on this. Most of the comments centered around traffic along Old Nashville Highway, the safety of potential intersections of this development with Washington Boulevard, which is where one of the main entrances is going to line up. This development is proposing turn lanes for both the main entrance and their secondary entrance on Old Nashville Highway. There is an access not for residential use along Burleson Lane, but that's strictly for CUD access, where they would access their step system in the back. So there's not another back way in that, and we were okay with that. Burleson Road is not as heavily traveled, but it's not as wide either as, say, like Old Nashville Highway or something like that. So we were okay with that. Really the concern that was mentioned the most involved drainage with this property and how development might affect adjacent properties. There was also some discussion regarding the availability of septic soils on the property. The letter of intent provided to us by CUD for the step system indicated a maximum of 227 units that could be accommodated on this property. Their applicant indicated that there were some additional soils that could be evaluated by CUD. They're still kind of working through that right now. Actually, I talked to representatives from SEC Engineering. Those are the ones helping with this project. So they're kind of working with CUD. You wouldn't see any kind of an increase on the number of lots with this subdivision. If any changes at all, it'd be a reduction in the lots. A small reduction in lots would probably be something I could approve administratively. That wouldn't have to be brought back through the whole process. As long as they're not changing road alignments and making a whole lot of changes like that, we could handle that administratively. But so 250 would be the max that they could ever get on this property. After further discussion, the Planning Commission did recommend approval again by a unanimous vote. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have on the development.
I did receive a call regarding a concern with drainage, that it was going to affect the surrounding property. And you've engineered that, and you don't have a concern?
Well, what the applicants would have to provide to us, they've kind of provided a drainage concept at this point, because this is the planned development rezoning stage. They're not required to do the full-blown drainage study yet.
Okay.
But even if this is approved, before we would allow any construction to begin, they would have to provide us with the more detailed engineering drawings. This is something we met with them on the front end and told them that this was going to be an issue. When you look at the aerial photos from 2010 and even from earlier this year, we have some photographs from earlier this year. There's an area kind of in the southern middle portion that holds a lot of water.
Right.
And that was a big concern of our engineering staff. So they would have to show us that they're going to over-detain or do whatever they have to do to make sure that this isn't going to cause problems on any adjacent lots.
And it's really gotten my attention because of the buyback program that we've we've discussed and voted on
Right.
with the federal government. And I certainly would not want another development to push a lot of water on some
Correct.
other
Right.
homes.
No, you're absolutely
So-
right, and we don't want to see that either.
So,
yes,
okay.
absolutely.
No, Commissioner, I'm glancing at one of the aerial photographs, and I think perhaps the engineering could be designed to actually enhance the neighbors to the south.
Interestingly enough that you say that, one of the neighbors who spoke at the public hearing actually even said that they were happy about this project coming because they felt the same thing.
Good, good.
So that now that you say that, kind
Cool.
of jogged my memory a little bit.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Mr. Peak?
I also had some people jerk my chain on this particular issue, and the concern I had too was, when I was mentioned to me was flooding, because there's been instances along Old Nashville Highway in several places where we've had to get some work done by our Public Works Department. And are any of those places near this location? where we've
I'm not
drainage issues?
aware of any, but without a little bit more detailed information, I couldn't say for sure. But during the discussions we had with the applicant and with our engineering staff, I don't recall them saying that there was a portion of Old Nashville Highway in this area that had, water overtopping or anything. But I'm sure that's something that we can find out pretty easily, just talking with our highway staff. Because they're involved with when we look at these projects as well, so they're aware of what we're looking at.
Well, next Thursday, when this comes to us at the full commission, I'd appreciate if you had that information.
Sure, I can do that.
And how many people did you say spoke at?
There were several. I can't recall exactly how many, but there were several that did speak at the meeting.
Or was it predominantly, normally, I guess, against, but,
Yeah, there were a couple that, well, the one that specifically that I was referring to was in favor of it. Of course, the owner of the property stood up and he spoke. Of course, he was in favor of the project. I would say there were probably more in opposition than there were in favor, but it wasn't I've been at public hearings where, short of the pitchfork and torches, that there wasn't, there were people who were concerned.
Right.
And maybe opposed, yes, but, politely so, if I can put it that way.
do you think you convinced any before they left that this was going to be okay?
It's hard to say. I know, of course, just from experience, I know how detailed our engineering staff is when they look at these things. And we have looked at developments in the past where even if they've been approved, they may not have had any construction done just because they never could overcome some of the drainage concerns that were there.
Yes, sir.
So,
Thank you.
yeah, there were a couple developments that, they've had to be redesigned for various reasons, like wetlands and different things like that. We've seen a couple come back through where they've completely had to overhaul it and reduce the number of lots because of various drainage and wetland concerns.
So you said 250 is the maximum
Yes, sir.
number of lots, and so statistics now are saying there'd be like 2 kids per household, so that'd be another 500 children in that area there. What school are they zoned to?
Stewartsboro and...
You probably would, yeah. We
Stewartsboro.
sent this actually, I sent this to the Central Schools office, so they're aware of the development. Now, I haven't received any comments back.
It's right across from the old airport by Florence.
Blackman Middle?
Well, the reason I'm asking, I want to make sure y'all are communicating with them
Okay.
and saying, hey, we're possibly going to throw you another 500 kids.
No. When we got
This area,
this,
so-
when we got this application, I sent the pattern book to the Assistant Superintendent Trey Lee on that.
I think it's already 1,600 middle school.
Is it become a routine to send a pattern book to Trey?
Yes, sir.
That's good.
And I've been doing that for
Glad
a
they're
while.
doing that.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean,
And Trey's been actually coming to our meetings as well.
So Blackman Middle at 1,600, Blackman Elementary over capacity,
Yes, over
and
capacity.
then Blackman High School well
We
over
brought
2,000.
them down a little bit for a
But
while.
they're still over 2,000, aren't they?
No, a little under 2,000.
Oh, really? Okay.
Storage Creek.
George Creek is sitting around close to 2,100 right now.
Sounds like we got all we need.
Do we have any more questions for Mr. DeMasi? Not, we'll need a motion on his report.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second made. All in favor? All opposed? Motion passed. Thank you, Doug.
Thanks, Doug. Appreciate it.
Do we have anyone here from the Highway Department tonight for anything? No. We have a mystery guest that's not on our list, and we'll call them up next. Mr. Spurlock from the school system. Y'all have some information to share with us?
One piece of information I think was talked about last night in steering, but we'll go to the first one. You may have read about it, but the commission has told us to look at different ways to secure some revenue, and we've obviously we hired a real good man here, Doug Bowlery, and Mr. Bowlery and I have been looking at this, and we went I think back in November before the IDB. And we looked at perhaps maybe looking at the school getting a pilot payment in lieu of taxes from the IDB. We did have a discussion with them. They didn't vote at that time, but they did say they would take it up. Doug can kind of tell you there's a couple of counties around us, one down in southeast, and of course Williams County that have done that. And as you can see on that first page, it shows some of the revenue they were able to bring in, and so this it's something new that it's been done before. What we're trying to request is that you get behind this, because now keep in mind I'm not saying that this will supplant what we're being funded, but as we grow, we know everything grows exponentially. I think currently, as we look at this as property tax is concerned, when you take in our GP that you fund us and you take in our capital maintenance, we're over 55% of the county's budget. What we want to do is what we're trying to do is look at ways that we can kind of make it status, instead of the county having to pick up as we add more kids, try to look at other areas to get revenue. Now, on this one here, Doug, can you give me a ballpark figure what you think we probably could get and if we was to get this pilot started?
Hamilton County, I think, will be more in line with Hamilton County after a few years, depending on how the economy and what the IDB recruits. I say Hamilton, of course, right now I checked with them, their county trustee, and what they brought in pilot payments for this program in Hamilton County. And you have it right there on the front page. It was for the fiscal year just ended. Hamilton County Schools brought in $8,274,608 in payment in lieu of taxes through the Industrial Development Board with this abatement program that they have. Williamson County, they haven't had it as long, and of course they're smaller with manufacturing, but more services up there. But they had $828,331, and of course they shared that with they split that between the county school system and the Franklin Special School District with their pilot. Both these counties, they got this idea off of basically a best practice, nationwide best practice. I included for you gentlemen is 2 pages back. This is just an excerpt from a TASER study that happened a few years back, where they spoke about the need, of course, in just counties like us, as we're growing, we're needing more revenue to fund our schools as we grow. And we all know with the BEP, how that funding happens is with the growth, it's always a year behind. We do get some payment from growth money coming this month, but we're basically always a year behind. This, of course, is going to help with that revenue shortfall. Both Williamson and Hamilton counties, as you notice in this tax rate, they require any company that comes in that gets a tax abatement, they have to do a payment in lieu of taxes to the school system equivalent to what they would have paid for property taxes that year had it not been abated. So they get the rest of the taxes abated, to bring all those jobs here. But on the flip side, they hold the school system harmless because obviously these companies are going to bring people that are probably going to have children They're going to utilize the school system. And on the flip side, the school system, like with RCT program, just like theirs, we're bringing up their workforce.
Right.
So it's a partnership, and that helps. And we was in Hamilton County. So what we've asked the Rutherford County IDB is for nothing new. We're just saying would like you to replicate what's already been going on for years in Williamson and Hamilton counties.
And one of the things I think it was mentioned last night was, why are they relocating? Obviously the tax break was one thing, but I think it's more to the quality of life, like they mentioned. And I think the school system is a part of that in providing a skilled workforce. And I think that, and once we presented this back in November, I felt like we had some on board, and what we want, from you guys, if y'all could kind of get on board also and kind of support us in this effort, because it's going to help. I think it's going to help everyone, and including our constituents. We serve the same people, and we want to maintain, but also at the same time we want to make sure that we're doing everything we can, not only to conserve what we currently have, but also look for other areas in order to get this revenue.
Is this money going to be, kind of lost me, put in a specific fund?
Probably our
would it be
general fund.
capital projects?
Probably, as I read the law, it could be put in anywhere, but primarily this would probably go into our GP.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is to address, it would help. I mean, you can imagine if once we got to the point where Hamilton County's on, we're at a
Right.
$17 million budgeted operating deficit right now, this
Half
could
of our
come
deficit.
away to helping that.
Doug, is there any way that you could go back in 2018
I asked the same thing to them.
and tell us exactly how much money you would have, the school system would have had?
I can get with Lisa Nolan. She keeps track of the abatements as they come in from our IDB, and then, we could back into that. That would be...
Give us a ballpark. Yeah.
Yeah, so we know what we're dealing with.
Right.
You might be cutting yourself.
Mr. Peak?
I talked to the superintendent earlier today, and this is something that we discussed, and I asked him to come here, and because I thought it was very important. This is money that's not coming out of our taxpayers' pocket. This is not, our taxes as usual, and it's some money that I think that would help us, without a doubt. But the reason I wanted to get y'all on board too is when you look on back, there's another issue that will bring up. There's a list of our IDB board members here, and there are 8 of them. I know most of them very well. Several of y'all probably know all of them, if not most of them. But I would suggest that we contact them and let them know, hey, this is something that could really help us. Wish I would consider it now. Craig, I may be mistaken. I don't think I am, but the current rules that they operate under were basically any abatement has to pay back a 3-to-1 ratio. That was approved and set by the county commission. And Steve, if I get off the track, let me know. But my thinking on this is it would be up to us as a commission to decide whether we wanted to do this or not. Now, I'd like for our attorney to let us know. I mean, I want them on board with this, but I think that we definitely have a strong say. We could deny them doing that, I'm sure of that, if they wanted to do it and we didn't want to. But I think on the other hand, I think that we could insist that they do that also. But I don't want to insist anything to them. I'd like these guys to think on their own. And I've been able to contact one member, I won't mention who that was, and he told me that the board, IDB board, had looked at that very favorable, that they thought what the superintendent had brought forward was a pretty good idea. I don't think they voted on that yet, but I would suggest that we call and get behind this if y'all plan to. We're also going to discuss this at budget this coming Thursday, but we've got 2 committees. Luckily, we've got 3 of our budget members here tonight, so that kind of give y'all a head start on it. But I would like for all the commissioners to get behind it if possible. But thank you.
Just looks like a win-win for everybody.
Right.
So help me out, I'm confused. It's one, so you're saying that we would charge them 1 year of property tax,
No, sir,
or is it 2%?
it's,
Go ahead, it's abated over time. But it could be, what's the typical time frame on it? 10 years maybe?
the state statute will allow an industrial bone board to go to 20 years,
Okay.
and they can actually do 22 if up to 2 years of that 22 is for construction time. Like if you're bringing a manufacturing, a large plant in, you get abate up to 22 years, but generally, once it's in operation, it's 20 years max for a tax abatement for real property tax. So what we're asking is, of course, just saying, okay, just like Williamson and Hamilton's doing, they can still abate, what they feel they need to recruit these businesses in. But that portion of the property tax levy, the annual levy that the commission drops on, puts down on the tax levy, the portion for the schools, that the company would then do a payment in lieu of taxes to the county trustee to put in the general purpose school fund and education capital project fund, equivalent to what they would have paid if they were on the tax roll. So it's basically the company making the county whole for the school portion of the abatement. And that's what those two counties, Williamson and Hamilton, are doing currently.
I don't know the answer to this, Mayor, but could this be grandfathered into tax abatements we have now?
Usually in any type of, any type of legislation or anything, you can't grandfather. It makes it awful difficult.
And I think that was a conversation we had with the board, and that we understood that. What we currently have, you can't go back and you change it. And we understood that too. So it wasn't, we're growing so fast, I don't think it's going to occur.
But we know we can't do that, right?
We can't do that.
That's what I'm saying. Make sure-
Yeah.
No, we're not. We weren't asking. We're not.
Just trying to cross the T's, guys. How much estimated revenue do you think this will create?
Well, like I was saying on the front page here, Hamilton County, and they've had it for several years. I want to say it was 8 years they've had this in Hamilton County, but they're bringing in over, there it is, the 8.2 million a year. That's what they brought in last year in these pilot payments through the Industrial Development Board.
Just to this program.
Yes, sir.
I'm gonna be a little bit conservative about that. It's not gonna be 8 million. I'd say probably closer to 3, maybe 4.
I'd say, unless I can get better,
It
but
could
once
be,
again,
and
you never know
never
what's
know.
coming forward. I'd love to have a crystal ball to know, but I like being
The
conservative.
more successful they are bringing people in, the better.
You gentlemen know we're having a hard time with capital project. We're really struggling with that.
Yeah.
That's the
Not
next
to
one.
mention,
That's the next one.
we got schools 50 years old.
That's right.
So, the thing is, I'd like to see that money go towards that.
Yeah. Well, that's this next one that was talked about last night was the Capital Improvement Act. And what we brought tonight, and I think, Senator Reeves and Representative Baum and Representative Sparks talked about this, but this one right here has approximately 40 or so districts that would receive money. And it's based on 5 years, previous 5 years of growth of 2% or higher. And what Doug has done is gone back in the last several pages there, and he's listed all the systems, and he's looked at based on last year what they would have received in return in state sales tax, return back to those systems. Now there is a fiscal impact on this that's really capped, as I've read the legislation, somewhere a little over 30-something million, but there's a cap on that. Now, what would occur is it talks to I don't see, it says some could fall out over time, and of course that would maybe increase more funding for others that are still there, and if some added over time, that could decrease, but because there is a cap there on that amount, a little over $30-something million. And as you can see on Rutherford County, I think it was like 3.6 million here based on last year. And this would be directly go to our capital projects. And you also have Murfreesboro Cities in there also.
This is basically a program that Representative Baum
It is.
discussed with us last night.
Yeah,
This has just got it in print in front of
Yeah,
us, so we can
it
see.
is. It's just got it broken down. Now, you know, and they say, you know, what we would prefer, you know, of course, you know, what we prefer and what you get is one, two different things, but is for to have it recurring. Of course, that's going to be predicated on what they say in Nashville, you know. But, you know, if it would, you know, I think they presented two options there, a one-time grant application, maybe it was a one-time, and then see if we could get it again, and then a recurring, and then the third one was a grant type thing, as I recall. But it's over, it's, you know, almost $3.76 million that would go to Rutherford County, and this would go directly into our capital projects fund. And I think we've all seen what our proposed capital project amount over, you know, doing HVAC, plumbing, you know, roofing. It was into the 68 million, $70 million.
It's pretty scary.
It's very scary. And you know, that's just like we run into some things that we ran into at Central Magnet, you know, with some of the things, and it also at Blackman, it's really concerning. And we think this could be part of the answer right here.
Is this in addition to the BEP?
This is completely separate.
It's two separate?
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
This is completely, this will come from the funding for this. This bill styled off a law that came into effect back in 2006. It was the Tennessee River Resort District Act. I think Donna Rowland carried this, or she's co-sponsor or something on.
She carried in the House, I carried in the Senate.
Okay, and it was, and that was back, but it was styled off of, correct me if I'm wrong, off this, was along the Tennessee River, some of the counties through there, they needed funding for economic development. That was in tourism. And so this
Boat
bill,
docks,
that was it.
et cetera, and we allowed them to sell beer and et cetera because they didn't have any other form of tourism at all. But because of the recreational area, those special districts were set up for that special.
That's it. And this bill, that law that this bill is styled off of, it allowed the counties, those counties that elected to be a Tennessee River Resort District, to retain a portion of the state sales tax, not the local option, but the state sales tax that was generated citus to those counties to come back to be earmarked for economic development. Same, my point with this is tried and true. This is not it's being done right now. And we're going to obviously utilize it to bring some of the sales taxes generated in this county back to this county.
So let me see if I hear you right. Based on what you come up here and just said, we have an opportunity to increase our revenue by $9 million. It's 3.5 with BEP, 3.1 with the Investment Act, and then your tax abatement.
You told us at budget time to go look for something.
Yes, so we're looking at about $9 million. Okay.
One thing you'll notice too on this list of counties, Representative Baum again and Reese and Sparks pointed this out, there are enough counties on this to get this legislation passed. Because what's happened in the past when we needed legislation passed, you basically get a rural versus more developed counties fighting each other, and there's a lot more underdeveloped counties, and a lot more rural counties, you know, Cannon, that type, than there are the growth counties like we are. So this kind of a coalition that we need to look at, really, in my opinion, we need to start looking at harder and working with these people to be able to get legislation passed. Not just necessarily this, but this is a good thing to be looking at.
And just to correct Representative Sparks, I didn't want to do it last night, but those lobbyists he referenced, he's right. They're being paid by the county, but they cannot get anything done. They're limited. It's not, those are not the lobbyists we have to worry about.
Well, the same thing applies there, because the membership's coming from those rural counties.
Rural counties. They're not, the only way they're doing is they're talking to some of their legislators,
The
not the
folks
vote.
that keeps their jobs as lobbyists, they're more
Right.
dues-paying members from rural counties than there are the larger counties, so
Right.
it's the same scenario with the lobbyists.
Exactly.
But here, this is county-specific on this, so we have a really good
Good
chance
chance, yeah.
of getting this done. Now, the BEP, it goes back to, now's an opportunity for our delegation, and y'all need to drive this home tomorrow night with the delegation. I didn't say it last night, but give us the BEP for the fast growing. But then go in, because we're so cash flush, that the state, our sales tax revenue has been excellent this past year. And we've salted away more money in rainy day fund, but there's additional money. We've got a lot of extra money, so get the delegation to go to the two finance committees and the governor and say, give these rural counties something else, let us have this. Give them some extra money to do something with, but we have to have this. And so there's enough money there to spread it around this year. And that's why they were looking at the one time, Ms. Spurlock, is one time and then maybe
That's
recurring
right.
next year.
Recurring next year.
But if we continue to grow the way we're on, we're just gonna keep on salting that
Absolutely.
money. So let's put it back to our counties that need it.
Commissioner Dodd?
The bill that you're referencing for the sales tax redistribution, is it, I just didn't see it when I glanced, is it specific for capital improvements? Is that what I heard?
It's
Yes.
debt and education debt service or capital improvement for the schools.
Okay.
That's it, yes, sir.
So there, because we can't determine where funds go in the school
Right.
board, so it would have to be earmarked in the act or the legislation.
That's,
And it's in there.
I just know, Commissioner Dodd, that on our last budget, and y'all correct me if I'm wrong, you asked for 10 cents, and we ended up giving you 7.5. And based on, in those budgets, they're gonna be in trouble next year, because the capital projects have
Right.
absolutely just went crazy, right?
We cut it in half, as I recall,
Yeah,
what they
yeah.
requested,
Yeah,
Yes.
That's correct.
to get to the 7.5.
Would anybody care to make a motion to move this on the budget Thursday night?
I make the motion to move.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Everyone in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
one request that I'd ask the mayor maybe to do for us is have our county attorney look at this first one, to determine who make the decision, whether the monies could be collected from the schools, if that's a decision that the IDB board itself would make or the commission would make, or who has final say on that. But I think we need to know that. And maybe by Thursday, it'd be nice if we could get the answer by then.
By Thursday.
We can call Chattanooga and find out at Hamilton. Guys doing it.
Make it-
We make-
Well, I don't know how our IDB is set up any
That's
different.
the charter.
Yeah, we have to look at the
County
charter
attorney.
They're gonna do it anyway.
on IDB.
Well, that'll let us know where we're standing, so.
Okay, we'll get that for you Thursday.
Thank you.
Do you have anything else, Mr. Spurlock?
No, sir. We appreciate you guys. Letting us
Thanks for the
talk.
effort, y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
While Mr. Spurlock's still at the table, I sent him an email, and I'm sure he's seen it, but since November the 4th of last year, we still have recycled every load that came out of the city and the county schools. Now, they're not perfect, but they're still recyclable. And I want to publicly thank you for helping us.
I appreciate you. Appreciate your job you're doing.
I had one commissioner that's not on this committee wanted me to bring this up on the school recycling. Their idea was maybe to make it a contest, and I think maybe we already have once or twice. It probably wouldn't hurt to continue.
Absolutely.
You know, and maybe try to push them to do better,
We can do that.
you know?
That couldn't hurt.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. be a contest for them.
Absolutely.
Be a contest.
Good job, gentlemen.
All right.
Thank you very much for coming. Well, it appears the only thing left is landfill report. Is he here?
Yes.
Yeah, there's Matt.
Bah humbug.
Happy New Year.
First thing you have on your sheets that you can see is the landfill report, but let me start with last year. Numbers hot off the press. Our total tonnage that Rutherford County Solid Waste, just us alone, in trash dealt with in 2019 is 45,630.72 tons.
Say that one more time.
45,630.72 tons. 38,500 came from the convenience centers, and 7,083 came from the schools and the county buildings. So that number's up from last year, about 1,000 tons. And on the landfill report,
Is that the convenience, where would cities of Murfreesboro's come in, or is this completely separate? You're not
City
counting
of-
them at all?
City of Murfreesboro's Convenience Center,
No, well, I know they have a convenience down there on Main. That's not
That's not our
counted in any of
tonnage.
this, okay.
we haul the aluminum cans, tin cans, and the glass out of there. We don't haul any of their trash.
Okay, so this 38.5 and 7,003, or the total of 45,630.7, that's only the rural areas and what was thrown into the convenience centers and schools.
Now, the schools is the city and county schools combined, 63 total campuses. We-
Okay, so
We do the city schools.
that's what I'm trying to figure out,
Right.
what our real numbers are. Okay. Thanks.
Now, it took me a while when I first got here to try to figure out why we do the city schools. Could not find it in any set of minutes in city or the county government, how that ever came to be. County Commissioner McAdoo told me how that happened. Is when the county started purchasing and getting donated property for convenience centers, was all out in the county. It was not going to do anything within the city limits of Murfreesboro. And at that time, it was all property tax funded. The agreement was, instead of getting a convenience center, we'll dump you schools. And that would have been in the late 80s. And I don't know how many schools they had at that time, but I'm sure it's half as many as they have today. So that's grown as well. But that's how that got started. But it's still nothing, no paperwork anywhere.
Gentleman's agreement.
A gentleman's agreement, and we stuck to it. So, but at one time, the city of Murfreesboro commission wanted us to, or council wanted us to start do a convenience center, and them not have theirs. And I told them, I said, hey, we agreed to do one, not the other. So which one do you want to do now? So I think they'd rather us do the schools. Any other questions on the last year's numbers? A number we heard from TDEC yesterday in a meeting, average across the state of Tennessee, each resident generates 1 ton of trash per year. 1 ton of trash per year. That's the average across the state. That's a whole lot of garbage.
300,000 tons.
For us would be, yeah, a little over 300, whatever that number's going to be. On the landfill report, you can see that it wasn't very busy. We were actually closed for the latter part of the month. In 2019, we took in less than 2,000 tons of brush. In 2019. And if you'll look at that report, I think it's the 4th page in. Yeah, the 4th page in, that will tell you where all that came from. And then the totals out to the right side, that total's in pounds, not in tons. So most of it is, what she does out there, she looks at the license plates, whatever it says on the license plate. So if you've got a resident that's moved here, that's got an out-of-county tag, then that's what's going on there. And then we've got Georgia and Louisiana, Missouri on there as well. But Dyer County, that's a long ride to haul a little bit of brush. 40 pounds of brush. So that was not one of our Dyer County residents. That's somebody that already moved here. Anybody have any question on the landfill report? I think I mentioned it last meeting or last month's meeting that TDEC wanted us to do some vents on the methane flares. We got all those completed with the exception of one. We had to reorder. There's 44 flares, so we ordered 44 vents, and then they found a piezometer that they wanted us to put a flare on, so we put it on the piezometer. Therefore, one of the flares didn't get one, so we've got that ordered to have that completed. But that's what TDEC wanted us to be finished by the end of the calendar year, and we were. We had that finished.
These are only vents, they're not burning.
No, we're not burning.
Okay.
What is the next step for TDEC for you to do, to make you do?
Eventually, they're going to probably make us put in some more gas ventilation because we have a gas migration problem. And then our leachate is, we've got some constituents in it that's above the limits. Well, it's been like that since '94, but it's trending better. If you look at the trend since 1994, those constituent levels have decreased. They would like for them to be decreased more, but it's actually a little bit better than it was. But with our design of the landfill, we're going to continue to have the issues that we have.
Is that due to water, rain, whatever, going through the?
Some of it is that, and then some of it's just the decomposition of the trash within inside. When something rots, it generates a liquid, and it also generates the gas. And then we don't have a built-in system to collect either one of those, so Mother Nature makes it go where it goes, and that's the issue that we wind up with, hopefully.
But you said your negative constituents has gone down.
Yes.
Is that your question? Why has it gone down, or?
Well, I was just asking why the leachates were going up.
Okay,
Which is, I felt like, sounds like we've got a seal problem, runoff or whatever.
Years ago, the leachate problem that we have today is not the old garbage landfill, it's the C&D landfill. C&D landfills are not supposed to have any leachate at all. But before I came, we were using alternative cover. And it was coming from Tennessee Waste out of Nashville. And alternative cover is basically C&D material ground up. So when they bring it in, it would have little wood chips and little pieces of paper and everything else. And the state approved it. But the inspector didn't like it. So he wrote us up for it every time. But what the cover is supposed to do is keep the animals out of it, which animals don't get into C&D anyway. There's no food waste there. And it keeps the wind from blowing in. So eventually that inspector retired. But what we would wind up doing to make him happy is we'd bring in the C&D waste and we'd dump it out, we'd spread it, and it would bring in just the thinnest layer of dirt on top of it, just so you couldn't see it. And he knew what we were doing, but he was okay with it. But by doing that and not putting dirt on it when it rained, there was nothing to keep the rain out of it. So for those years, all that rain got collected in the bottom of the landfill. So that's our leachate problem. And if you remember, we were pumping a lot of leachate a few years ago, and we finally got most of that pumped down, and we got a lot more dirt on it. So we still have a little infiltration that you were asking about, but not near what we had.
So it is your opinion that we have got to do something about our county dump
Yes, sir.
soon.
Sooner than later. Because it's currently an environmental issue, and it will remain an environmental issue until it is dug up. There's no other way that I know of to actually fix the problem. We can keep working at it, but to actually fix it. And that's the solution I'd like to see us agree to at some point. Of course, yes, I realize it will be expensive, but I think...
What do you think it'll be? 13 million?
When we were talking with Republic about what their possibility was, the number was 6.6 million, and that was burying it in their landfill. We don't have a place to bury it for free. So there would be that cost on top of it.
How large is the C&D portion?
Now, the C&D is not what needs to be dug up, but I would like to see all of it dug up.
Did I not understand you to say that's where the leachate is coming from then?
Yes, that is where our leachate, but it's a very mild leachate. The gas migration problem is what the state's on us about, and that's in the old closed landfill.
And how big is that?
Total acreage is about 70 acres.
Was it ever fully capped?
No.
and things.
The old closed landfill has what they call a bentonite cap on it, and bentonite is just a white powder that, when it gets wet, it kind of seals, and then a layer of dirt on top of it. And it had some fabric in it, net-type fabric, to help keep it together. There is places there that you don't have to dig down very far, and you can get into the bentonite really quickly. You shouldn't be able to do that. It should be 2 feet of dirt on top of it. And a part of that issue is, as the trash decomposed, the cap actually moves, and then you wind up with high places and low places. Your drainage issues gets changed. A couple of years ago, we spent all summer going in there and changing and having to add dirt. You really couldn't take any dirt out because you didn't know where that bentonite layer was. So you had to add dirt to create the drainage required to get it drained properly.
I'm curious. We looked at a composting facility in Sevierville. Is that end product, can that be used as fill?
Not structural fill, no, because it's still going to be continuing to decompose. At some point, it would get to nothing but dirt, and then you'd be okay. But while it's still compost, no, it's not structural enough.
Structural in as much as you couldn't put a load on it, or structural meaning it wouldn't be waterproof, or it wouldn't be a cap? What do you?
Structural, that it wouldn't be to where you could build anything on it.
Okay.
It wouldn't be firm.
Okay.
And then it's still going to be porous enough to allow the liquids to come through.
Okay, that's what
We can't build anything on the landfill anyway, that I'm aware of.
that's what I was trying to clarify. That
No, because it's going to continue to settle. You know, we have, I don't know if y'all been out there or not, several years ago, the wind blew the structure down. We never did bother putting one up, but it's a leachate well that's on our neighbor's side of the property. Our landfill has a big hump in the middle that never was dug out. So we have a well on one side of the hump, not on the other. The north side is not got the well on it. It's a concrete with a 300 gallon plastic tank, and the well has a pump in it. You turn the electricity on, you pump it, and you'll get about 250 gallons of leachate. You run out of leachate. And then we open the valve, and it's gravity fed next door, and it goes through their system. I'm fairly confident when that was put in, that concrete slab was probably level. It's probably 1.5 foot difference from one side of it to the other now. But everything still works. You know, we just kind of left it alone. But you know, that's because of settling. At the time it was put in, they considered it a pond. There was a big pool of leachate, and they were using it to pump that out. Now we pump less than 1,000 gallons a month out of there. There's times you go up there and turn it on, you don't get anything. But on the opposite side of the landfill, where there's been nothing, we dug a hole with a track hole just as deep as you could go. So if you're digging with a track hole and going deep, you wind up funnel shaped. And we were trying to fix a leachate outbreak. That's where leachate is coming out on top of the ground. So what you normally do is, if it's coming out here on the side of the hill, you dig above it, and you try to get the source of where it's leaking from, and you dig down and you fill it back up with rock. And that creates a vertical French drain for it to go back into the landfill. That's how you solve that problem. As we started digging, we hit leachate within the first 3 feet and never got it to go away. So we wound up putting a pump and putting a hard line to come down on the side of the hill so we could pump it into the vendors' trucks and haul it off. It's about roughly 5,500 gallons at a time to 12 cents a gallon. And that still has leachate there. We pump it occasionally, but that's going to be another problem that we'll have to get rid of. It's saturated. It's just completely saturated in that area.
How many total acres is owned by county-owned property?
It's 288 deeded acres, and then you got the river, so it's roughly 265 of actual land.
And 70 acres is
Is landfill.
including C&D total. And 200 what?
Yeah,
260?
268.
Something like that, total land.
How many does Republic have? Do you have that know? How many
Yeah, it's a
acres?
little over 400. Well, they've got a little over 400 in what we call Middle Point landfill, and then they have a little less than 400 in what was used to be the Matthews property, which is on the other side of Landfill Road. So if you take Middle Point, Rutherford County, and the Matthews property, there's a little less than 1,400 acres right there together that's associated with landfill activity.
Republic owns the bar pit to the east. Is that what you're saying?
No, there is a borrow pit to the east that they do own. It was the Matthews property. Now, where they're currently digging dirt is not property they own.
Private property that
Right.
we, okay.
That belongs to the Reeves family.
That's what I thought. So I didn't know Republic had any over there. I thought it was all Reed.
If you drive up the landfill road, it's all on the left side, isn't that correct? All the way? From Jefferson Pike all the way back?
At one time, the Matthews, heavily, you may know, I don't know if you remember, the Matthews owned the property that Rutherford County landfill owned.
They did know.
And I think when the Rutherford County started using it, they didn't own it, they were just using it. And then eventually bought it. But there was some monitoring wells and some gas migration wells that was actually on, that's not on our actual property. They're all gone now. But when they deeded the property, some of those wells weren't part of the deed.
But they didn't own the land where the Republic landfill is. Morgan
No.
Green owned it.
Yes, Morgan Green owned that. It was 800 acres, 400 on either side of the road. So that subdivision right across the road from it was built after the landfill started.
See, that was one of the killing points over a year ago when we voted to not merge, because that road pretty well keeps them hemmed away from the other property they own without having it permitted. And to have it permitted, this commission, I believe, will have to agree to that, so.
Now, they've been allowed to put a gate across landfill. Now, we have a key, of course, they have a key. But normally they don't let them put gates on county roads, but that one does.
Who allowed them to do it?
Highway Department,
Why'd they do it?
to help keep people out of it, general public.
I could see that.
Because, if you go in Landfill Road, it's,
I know where it is.
yeah,
I drove around it.
but it's not quite, but close to a mile back to our gate. And then once you get to our gate, then Landfill Road stops right there, and then that's just our driveway the rest of the way. And then we're another half a mile or so back in there to our building. So that, with the road open nights and weekends and things like that, you had a lot of traffic going up through their illegal dumping, and teenagers have to have a place to go communicate, that type of stuff.
Play cards.
Yeah, play cards.
Mayor never did play no cards. I can look at him tell.
That was a Girl Scout hut.
Any other questions on landfill at this time?
We need a motion to approve the landfill report.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second made. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
Now,
Was there anything else that came out of TDEC other than
there's
the,
a lot of stuff comes out of TDEC, but I don't want to mention it publicly.
okay. Well, just text me then.
What were you referring to?
Well, I knew they had a meeting here in Murfreesboro yesterday, and
That was the meeting I was in. It was for the annual progress report. That's the numbers that we put in and give to them to where they can do their report for the governor's reports, what it's actually for. So they had a meeting to explain all the changes and the new things about the progress report.
are they basically, Mayor, just a reporting agency? I mean, is that the bottom line for them? They just keep up with the numbers?
TDEC is a regulatory agency.
They're regulatory.
They have the authority to file.
Yeah, they're regulatory and assistance.
They can,
Well, the assistance is what I would be interested in, and
Well, Pat Flood's the director, and I like to do him. You're with TDEC and you're here to help. Yeah,
okay.
but they are helpful in a lot of ways. Their assistance is, if we want to do something with our landfill, right now we've got it asleep, it's resting, and they don't really like that. So they're waiting for us to do something. They're not going to tell us what to do. And if we go to them and say we want to do this, they'll help us walk through that and make sure that we understand what we're into. And if it's something that we should not be doing, they'll say, no, you can't do that.
it's a large agency. It's not just environmental. I mean, they're over all of our state parks, they're over all the waterways, you know, they,
There's a lot of departments within it.
Okay.
I'll tell you what I'm concerned with. Everybody's just estimating on this county dump. I'm concerned about it. I'm not gonna tell you, I am concerned about the county dump. But I don't need, we always talk about numbers. I mean, everybody's just giving me an estimate. How can we not get bids? Can we not bid on that? Have somebody come in there and bid on fixing this county dump?
We can.
I think that's what we're planning on doing. Within the next few weeks, we'll start working with Becky. The direction we got last month was to start putting together bid specifications to put it out on RFP.
Yeah, tomorrow at 10:30, if we start that, we have that meeting.
Yeah, we've got a meeting starting tomorrow.
And that can be one of the bid specs.
If there's any way possible, I'd like to see if you could get it bid out, to get somebody actually to come and look to see about mining that landfill out versus what we're gonna have to spend on it to
Oh,
keep it.
absolutely. I think that needs to
I
be
think
in
that's
the
what, correct. Is that what you're referring to?
Yes, exactly, yeah.
Because
I mean-
it could very easily be in the long run less to mine it out and get rid of it. than it
Well, I
would be.
think you heard Max say it's an environmental hazard and it's not going to go away. We can patch it from now on, but until we take care of it, that needs to be in our bid specs on RFP.
So would they not have to take core samples?
I would think that they would.
Well, I wouldn't bid on it unless I take course.
So I'm saying, aren't we prohibited from doing that right now?
No, we can do that.
No, we can do it. We prohibited Republic from doing it.
The core samples would.
Oh, okay, it's just,
The core sampling would do multiple things for you. One, it would tell you your levels, depths of trash. And then it would also, if you're sampling as it comes out, it would tell you what trash you're digging through. It could help you look for hazardous type waste, that type stuff, and it would also let you see what's coming up out of there. Most of the garbage, what was in our kitchen trash can back in 1995 is dirt. So what you're going to dig through now is the old garbage that's turned to dirt, plastic, tires, wood, metals, those type things. And then you'd want to know where the bottom is. You know, how deep is the actual landfill? And then if Republic was going to core drill it, they would want to go deeper than that to see how deep the dirt is underneath.
So if you core drill and you don't know how deep it is, how do you keep from, is there a liner
No.
under there?
No liner.
No.
But I think when BFI originally put in the liner, and then they were the first landfill to actually seam two liners together as they expanded their footprint, I think they should have a pretty good idea of what that depth was, and to come on around where we are, we probably started about the same depth as what they started at. I would say we're pretty close.
Ours wasn't dug down. Ours has more dirt there.
Yeah.
But that piece of property, the old green farm, what Middle Point has done to it now is made a landfill out of it, and they moved the hill. So the property line is a hill. So you got the fence going up the property line, and at the very top is where our landfill is on, if you're looking at it looking south, is on the left side. And then it's a steep drop off all the way to the bottom and a road on their side. You know, so they dug all their side down, and ours wasn't dug down at all. Ours was built up, actually. It's when they first started, what I've been told, when they first started putting garbage in there, it was gullies. And they started filling the gullies, and then they dug trenches, and then they started burying trash on top of it and covered it.
I talked to some of the people that actually started it, and they said they took a dozer and pushed a little dirt back and started dumping trash against it.
All right.
Yeah.
Pretty simple for them. You know, the county government told them to cover it, they covered it. There you go.
Say, go take it out there and dump it, and that's what they did. Dump and cover, right?
Should we be talking in front of Rebecca like this?
Yeah.
She's over there right now.
Yeah, she's like, no, she's-
Right on our convenience center side, we've been a little busy this month, believe it or not.
Christmas paper
Oh, Lord.
and boxes.
As we take off Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. We work New Year's Eve and take off Christmas Day, or New Year's Day. Landfill is actually open on Christmas Eve, but they close early. The way Christmas fell this year and New Year's, we're off on Mondays. Closed Tuesday, Christmas Eve, Wednesday, Christmas Day, off on Thursday, and we didn't open back till Friday. So we were closed at Sunday at 3 o'clock and opened back up Friday at 9:30. Now, our trucks ran Monday and Thursday. So when we opened up the centers, we didn't have very much trash to haul. We had enough to keep them busy until it all started. And then I was in there dispatching over the weekend, Saturday and on Friday. That Friday had a sheriff deputy call me, "You got to get these people off the road." I said, "We've got all the cars in the center we can hold." "Well, you need to get them off the road." I said, "You need to send them on down the road." Well, you know, and then Almaville, we had.
I got some salt. Almaville, gosh, where else was?
I had a state trooper call, and he said, "You need to get out here and direct traffic." I said, "We can direct traffic in the center. They won't do what we ask them to do. They won't do us any good to get out
Commissioner
there."
Almaville was upset too.
But it's been really busy. Today was really busy. We deal with Christmas trash for 3 weeks. It takes 3 weeks for everybody to get rid of their Christmas trash. So in our solution, we're going to have to look at something better than the convenience centers being the only source of trash removal. And we're not going to be able to grow them. I had a resident call and wanted us to enlarge the Smyrna Center to flow traffic better. We can do that. We actually have more property there, a little over 2 acres. So we could make a huge center out of it. But to do that, you're going to have to put more equipment in. You're going to have more manpower. You're going to have more trucks on the street. So making one flow better, yeah, you can do it. It's just you're going to have to add the cost to go along with it.
Can you not do what I have tried for 2 years to get you to do and reroute the traffic off the road into the back of the center and let them approach the compactors from the back rather than from the roadside?
To answer the question, yes, we can. Now,
Why don't we do that?
well, that was one of the phone calls that one of the deputies called. He
Oh, they
said,
burnt me up.
he said, "We're gonna reroute it."
This deal.
he said, we're going to reroute them and take them into exit and bring them out to entrance. I said, "How many deputies you going to have there?" "Oh, we're not going to stay here." I said, "Then you're going to create a head-on collision. You're going to have people coming in." Well, they always came in. I said, "It's going to take a while to change the direction." Leanna, if y'all remember, almost a year ago now, we changed the direction of Leanna to help get them off the street. And we had to have extra employees there to stop them from coming in and motion for them to go on down. And still to this day, there's still a few that try to come in the other direction. The other problem is Saturdays and Sundays. Saturday at 11 on a normal week. Now with a holiday they didn't. They let us run on Saturday till quitting time. But 11 o'clock, Middle Point cuts us off. We're done dumping. So we're using the hill yard on our landfill. So if we get a load out in the center somewhere, we'll take an empty box, go swap it out and bring that full box and set it on the hill yard and store it. Going in and out, going in the way you're talking about, we won't be able to get to the hill yard. They'll have all that blocked up.
No, just like at Walker Hill.
I'm talking about.
They got 2 entrances in the front. Is that not right?
Yeah.
In the front.
On Landfill Road.
No, on Jefferson Pike.
The convenience center has their private entrance.
Yeah.
And then Landfill Road has an entrance.
Yeah.
In Landfill Road, if you're coming in the inbound lane, you can turn in. The outbound lane goes toward Las Casas. And our trucks-
That front is wide enough to put in another gate and make an entrance and let them come out on the far corner for an exit back onto the Jefferson Pike and let them cycle all the way to the back of that property and come back. Do it with the open top bins if you have to make them go that way. Make them a path. People follow paths. You know, they won't follow flags, but they'll follow an opening.
Mm-hmm.
Make them a path and make them come into the backside and use it and go out the other gates you put in. It won't cost a whole lot, even to try it.
Well, you're going to lose some open top capacity. You have to move some of them out to make that travel that you want to do, which can be done. And then the other thing that you're going to create is they're going to be sitting in line waiting to get to that compactor. By the time they get there, they're not going to have any trash in their vehicle. They're going to put it in open tops. They're sitting by and then going out. We can work toward it, but I'm just letting you know that there's some obstacles. It's a little more to it.
Between now and next Christmas, because Christmas will probably be one day in advance than it was this time.
I don't know.
I believe we're gonna have the
Yeah.
same issue of you taking like 3 to 4 days off in a row. We're gonna do something if we have to put just a little money in your budget to hire a little help. Cause the people have gone nuts. We had them jumping off Jefferson Pike, running through yards and vehicles because the trash traffic had the road blocked. And they wasn't gonna wait.
They were, I don't know if how many of you are familiar with where Walker Hill Center is, but the traffic was from Hedge Apple Lane
Yeah,
to the Walker Hill Center, and it was out of sight the other direction.
yeah.
Leanna was crowded too.
Yeah.
People that were just coming from Smyrna that way, not going to the landfill, couldn't get there. They had to reroute and go around another way.
And every center we had was that way.
Yeah.
Almaville had.
Almaville was backed up from 840 all the way around, out of sight around the curve the opposite direction.
Yeah, he said 50, 60 cars.
Another reason why they just need to give gift cards.
Doesn't make sense.
You have your scheduled day that you can bring your trash, instead of having your trash pickup on a day that you can only bring it one day. But we were extremely busy, but the last time the holiday failed where we were closed 4 days like that was, I think, 4 years ago. And the population increase in that 4-year period is part of it. You know, so it's something we just got to look at and try to figure out. And then another thing that creates a problem for us is the trailers. You know, at some point, we may have to look at banning trailers. If you don't have a pickup truck or a car, then you just have to look. I don't know how we're going to manage all that, but we've got to get a handle on it.
What's the problem with the trailers?
A lot of people come to know how to back one, so they block things up. They have to pull across in front of it to get back up to it, and then they're bringing too much stuff. Convenience centers are, the word convenience is a state term, and it's intended to be closer to your home than the landfill. That's the term convenience. It's not a convenience store, and it's, you know, all that kind of stuff. That's the terminology for it. But it's intended for household garbage. You know, years ago, we had brush, and they cut out taking brush before I came here. Brush was you know, you get 2 pickup truck loads of brush, and they don't put it in a 30-yard right now. You got a full 30-yard. There's a lot of air space.
Well, the definition of convenience for people over in my district is that it's open when they're off, so they've got time to timely go over there and dump their trash, and that's usually the weekends, because most of them don't get home in time in the evenings to go over there. They go into work too early in the mornings. The only time they've got is Saturday, and we're cutting off on Saturday and Sunday, so that's something we might want to look at to help tighten up our convenience word.
Well, we don't call them
Using it as a
convenience centers no more anyway. We brought brand new signs and we call them
Recycling
recycle.
center, trying to rebrand it and change it. Now, the convenience centers, when they were first built, and the convenience centers were open before the landfill was.
You're talking to a volunteer firefighter here.
I understand that, but where I'm going with it is, to the best of my knowledge, they have always been closed on Mondays and Thursdays. Is that best of your knowledge? Always?
That's the best of my knowledge, but I'm talking prior to convenience centers when we had open garbage.
Oh, they call that the green box
Around
system,
the-
oh, yeah. Then they got caught on fire and everything else.
Well, no, it wasn't caught on fire, it was put on fire.
Yeah.
It
Yes.
wasn't instantaneous combustion, it was people got, you know, they piled it up so high, and they said, well, we need to lower this down, and then get a call and go over there and put it out.
That's what they done when they got tired of playing cards.
Well, you got-
Started trouble somewhere.
But where I'm going with that is, to the best of my knowledge, convenience centers have always been closed on Mondays and Thursdays, and we're open 37 and a half hours a week. 9:30 to 5, 7:30 to 3, and 5 days a week. That's 37 and a half hours. It's independent, they pay for an 8-hour day. And the reason for that, they don't get a duty-free lunch, and they have to get there, get everything cleaned up, get opened up, and then get it all closed up and gone. But to fix your problems that you're speaking of, is you're gonna have to extend the hours. And we talked about that a year or so ago, and that's gonna be a lot of money.
Yeah, at that time it was 600 and something thousand for 1 hour, you know, but still. We're gonna get these people off the road somehow. Do something. somebody's gonna get killed in some of this hostile traffic. And they are
I, for
hostile.
one, know that it's dangerous over there in front of the landfill by Walker Hill.
Yes,
I can attest to that.
Sure can, can't you? On a tractor.
Yes.
Do you have anything else, Matt?
No, sir, I don't think so.
We need to approve his convenience center report. We'll need a motion
It's a move.
and a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
Now, this is not part of the report. Next month, we're going to come to you with a budget amendment. And the reason I'm waiting until next month is if we do it in the right order, then I'll wind up first at budget, so I won't have to stay here all night long. But we have trying to get the number right, $23,000 remaining in our tire budget. We've been spending almost $12,000 a month on tires. So we're going to try to bring a budget forward that's going to have enough money to get us through the end of the year. Now, what's creating part of our tire problem is the landfill itself. When they're changing elevations, instead of packing the trash in, they're pushing it and making it rise, and they're not packing it. They're wanting the trucks run over and pack it for them. Guess that's what that does to our tires. So that's what's happening to our tire budget. But we're getting ready to get into the budget process already. We're going to start budget meetings this month.
Sent out notice yesterday.
The reason I'm asking the question, do I need to start putting money in the budget to deal with our landfill? Or is that something we want to wait and have further discussions about it? But, you know, are we going to try to fix the problem? Are we going to try to just keep patching the problem? Or are we going to try to get rid of it? What are we going to try to do? What we've done in the past is put the operation budget together as needed. And then fund balance, we do have a fund balance. If we've got to go in and spend some extra money, we can go in and pull money from fund balance and put it into the budget. Which way do you rather see it?
I think you need to prepare it both ways, Mike. So,
Okay.
you know, do it that way. We don't know what the RFP is going to bring us, but at least by the time we get into April and May, we'll have an opportunity to look at it.
Okay.
Okay. I'd prepare it both ways.
Okay. Any other questions for me?
Do we have any other business?
Thank you.
Thanks, Mac.
Mayor, you have anything?
No, sir.
I'll
Oh, I do. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Very quickly, on the January 15th at 6 o'clock, we have the special meeting. And I got a call from Chris Jones, president of Middle Tennessee Electric. He will have a representative here, Jeff
Lockett.
Brockett,
Rocket.
Brockette. He's a representative, and then the representative from TVA is Chris Templeton. And he has not heard back from Nashville Electric since they're servicing Mr. Chairman down there in the Laverne area, since Nashville Electric. He's going to push them and try to get some representative, but we'll have at least two folks here to talk about waste to energy, talk about selling it back to the grid on that date of the 16th, 15th, at 6 o'clock.
The TVA guy, do you know what his position with TVA is?
I do not, but Chris is the one that made the contact on that, and he's the one that's sending Jeff also.
That's impressive to get somebody from TVA here.
Well, Jeff's a big buyer. I mean, Chris is a big buyer.
Which one's?
Mayor Ketron, our special meeting is at 5:30.
Is it 5:30 or is it at 6?
Yeah, they put it at 5:30.
Yeah.
You told,
6.
No, our
If
special
it's
meeting.
purchasing is at 4:30.
That's right.
that's
That's
correct.
why we moved it.
We had to move it to 6 because purchasing is at 4:30.
Ordinary
Six?
is 5:30.
On
6
the,
o'clock.
on the
6 o'clock.
15th, it's at 6 o'clock, but the
Yeah, we're about to.
the next Wednesday is back to the 5:30,
That's correct.
the 22nd.
Mr. Chairman, may I inquire from Rachel about, do we have a infrastructure subcommittee on Tuesday, the 14th at 11:30?
I'll have to look at I believe so, but I'll have to look downstairs. I didn't bring that little calendar upstairs with
But
me.
she can send out another notice.
Yes, I can.
I have it on that day. Thank you.
Anything else? Looking for a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
So be.